Hello, vinyl community. This is Mike from TCAT's Deep Vinyl Tracks. I'm doing a video today to show some new vinyl that I found actually yesterday. And it's kind of a unique find, a unique place that I got it from. And I want to talk about that a little bit first. Uh, the place that I bought them from is a place called Riley's Records. Now, I found this place on Marketplace, and I knew they were in Tilbury, Ontario, which is probably about around a half hour away from where I live. And I was interested in tracking this place down, but when I went to Tilbury, all I could find was an antique store, and I thought, well, a lot of antique stores sometimes hide record stores in them. So I went into the antique store, looked around, saw no records, saw no booths or anything like that that would have records in it. So I asked the guy there, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's just down around the corner and go down the street, and you'll see it." So anyway, I went down there. It's kind of out of the way from the main drag in town, um, on a street called Young Street, which is mostly residential. But he said it was there next to, well, inside the building with a plumbing supply shop. I thought, okay, not plumbing supply is not really the place you would normally go look for records. So anyway, I went out there, found the plumbing supply store, and there was a separate door that said Riley's Records. But this was all not yesterday, but this was all a week ago, Friday. So I went there and seen it, but it was already closed for the day since they have these hours like from 10 to 4:30, and they're only open on certain days. So it was closed. Well, I went back yesterday and earlier in the day, and it was open. Um, and sure enough, it's there right behind a plumbing supply store. But it has its own separate door. It's just a really small place, but it's just full of. I was surprised at how many records the type of music that I like. A lot of progressive music, but a lot of um, classic rock, a lot of new releases, a lot of everything there. And talked with the guy there that owns the place. His name is John. Um, and he was telling me that he actually lives in Windsor, which is right on the Canada-US border, right across the river from Detroit. So Windsor is only about an hour away from where I live. And he said that he's actually got a bigger store there, and a lot of his records that he puts in this store in Tilbury comes from the Windsor area. So I asked him why Tilbury, because Tilbury's a smaller town than another town called Chatham, which is closer. You would think it would be smarter to put the store in Chatham. And he said that, different reasons. There was a lot of competition in Chatham already, and he didn't want to compete with one of his friends that has a store there, who I also am familiar with. But anyway, so he chose to find this little place in Tilbury, just like I said, a very small place. Um, but a really nice guy. I mean, he sat there and talked to me the entire time I was standing there looking for records. And I would pull something out, and he would say, "Oh, that's a great album. That's a great album." But a lot of vendors are like that. They'll say stuff. Everything you pull out is a great album, but he actually knew a lot of stuff about the music, so uh, that helped convince me he was quite sincere. And I picked up a bunch of stuff. I had limited funds, so there was only so much I could spend, and that I wasn't expecting to find that much, quite honestly. So I pulled out what I wanted, uh, and he gave me a really good deal on it. Um, so just great guy, great place. Uh, and if you're in the Windsor or the Tilbury area, uh, I would suggest you check them out. Now, he has a Facebook page. I will leave a link down in the comments to that if you're interested. And for now, what I'll do is I'll go through and show you some of the things I found. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect to find there. I found some holes that I really needed to fill, so a lot of $5, $10 records, and then a couple of records that are a lot more difficult to find. So I'll go through those now. First of all, we got the Emerson, Lake and Palmer, or Emerson, Lake and Powell. This is the only album put out by Emerson, Lake and Powell. Now, this came out about 8 years after the last Emerson, Lake and Palmer record came out, which was Love Beach, and everybody knows that's probably not one of the most preferred Emerson, Lake and Palmer albums. And ELP actually put out two more albums later, but in between those times, from Love Beach to their next album, which I think was In the Hot Seat, if I remember right, they released this one, Emerson, Lake and Powell, missing Palmer, Carl Palmer, of course, because I think at the time he was working with Asia, and they got Cozy Powell he's an excellent drummer, so of course worked out well with this lineup. And this was the only album they released as that trio. They later released another album called Three, but that was with the trio Keith Emerson, Carl Palmer, and right now I can't think of the lead singer's name, but Greg Lake wasn't involved in that particular project. And that band went by the name of Three, just the number 3. And then, of course, after that, the original lineup released 2 more albums. So anyway, that being said, I wanted to say that because I think this is the best album that that trio was involved with as far as anything post Love Beach. This is probably the best release I think it's the best release out of everything that was released after Love Beach. Sorry. Comes with the lyric sheet. And here's the Polydor label. So Emerson, Lake and Powell. Not a real difficult album to find, but I've been trying to find one in a really good shape like this for a while, so I was glad to get that. A couple of holes I needed to fill with Paul McCartney and Wings, and this was one of them. Wings at the Speed of Sound. Good price on this, so I picked it up. And I've always loved this cover. Of course, it looks like a marquee, and really love this album too. Now, I did actually have a physical copy of this, but it came accidentally packed in with Wings Across America. So that's a triple album set, and that actually had a copy of Wings at the Speed of Sound inserted with it, but it wasn't a very good copy. So plus I also wanted one with the original packaging, especially since I really love that cover. And another one I needed was London Town, so I picked that one up too. Again, both of these were really good prices, but he also ended up knocking off a lot more money after the fact too, so it was really nice of him to do that. I mean, everything's in good shape. Everything is intact. The inner sleeve, perfect. No splits, no tears. Just a few little dings in the corners on the records. So really good shape. And these were only $5 a piece at regular price. So another artist I needed to fill some holes on that I had these before what I call the Great Purge. So I'm starting to build this back up. It's Jethro Tull, and I got the Songs from the Wood. One of the best copies of this I've seen, and as far as shape goes, love this album. One of my favorite Jethro Tull albums. I love Ring Out Solstice Bells. I think that's just an amazing song. Songs from the Wood, the title track. Jack in the Green. The Whistler, of course, was the single off of this album. Velvet Green and Peroche, Cap in Hand is my favorite songs off this particular album. One that I've been looking for since I've been trying to get back some of the old records that I used to have. So I'm glad to find a beautiful, pristine copy of that. And also Heavy Horses. Another favorite of mine. Love the track Heavy Horses. One Brown Mouse, and the Mouse Police Never Sleeps. No Lullaby. Some great songs on this album also. And also in great shape, the inner sleeve, has a little tear in the top and is folded over. The crease is coming out on the bottom. Just a few minor issues there, but the jacket itself is great. The vinyl is perfectly clean and just great. So a couple more holes filled there. I also picked up this album. This is a Canadian band, Harlequin, and this is their album Love Crimes. Not as familiar with this, but I've heard of Harlequin. I knew they were a Canadian band. I heard some good things about them, so I thought I would pick that up. Again, good price. So, and it's on the Epic label. And this one here, I have kind of an interesting feel about the band Journey. I really like the first albums that they put out with Steve Perry. Infinity, that was one of my favorite albums when I was growing up, and I still really love it. But there was one album before Steve Perry joined the group, and it was called Next. And a lot of you probably know this album or seen it before. But if you're not that familiar with Journey's music, I have to say this is probably my favorite album of all of theirs. Like I say, it was before Steve Perry joined the group. Greg Rowley and Neil Sean did most of the vocals back then, and both of them are pretty good vocalists. They're just nothing compared to like Steve Perry. However, that doesn't matter on this. This is the hardest album Journey put out. If you haven't heard it and you think you know what Journey sounds like, you need to find this album and give it a listen. There are 8 tracks on it, and like I say, probably their hardest album, I think, even pre-Steve Perry. I think this might be a reissue, I'm not sure, but it's in really good, clean condition, and really happy to find a good copy of this. Usually this album, when you find it's in really bad shape. This one is clean, almost brand new looking as far as the vinyl itself goes. The bottom's got a little seam, the glue is coming undone, but that's easily fixed on the jacket. Okay, so I've got a couple more to show, but I want to kind of give a little introduction on this next one. And before I do that, I want to give a shout out to Mike, the Vinyl Policeman, good friend of mine. Has a great channel. I really enjoy watching his videos that he puts up. And I've known about this band before. I've even heard them before. I've got, I think, one of their albums on on a non-physical format digitally, and really liked them, wanted to pick up more by them. And this band is one of Mike's favorite bands, the Comsat Angels. Now, before I show the record, I just wanted to also give another plug to Mike. I was watching JT's Record Room about a week ago, and he was talking about Mike and some of the music that Mike makes. Now, I knew that Mike was a musician. I didn't know, I hadn't heard anything by him or anything that he'd recorded until I listened to JT's Record Room, and he mentioned a couple of CDs that Mike had released under the name Mike Grogan. And I thought I would look up some of his music on YouTube. And I found a couple of songs, and let me tell you, it just blew me away. Just amazing music. And I would highly suggest, if you know the Mike, the Vinyl Policeman, go check out his channel, Official Mike Grogan. And again, I'll leave a link to that down in the comments, or in the, not the comments, but the details section. Amazing stuff. I mean, I was just blown away with how good it sounded, how professional it sounded. Mike has a great voice. He's an amazing guitar player, and highly recommend you go check out his channel. Anyway, Mike didn't pay me to make those announcements, by the way. I do that all on my own free will. Anyway, back to the Comsat Angels. I did find an album from them at Riley's Records. This album is called Land, and this is actually the only physical copy of the Comsat Angels I've been able to find around this area. So after hearing Mike say so many great things about them, I thought I would investigate them a little bit more. Made it a point that if I found one of their albums, I would pick it up, and I picked this one up. Now, I do realize this is probably a little more commercial of their albums. They had just changed labels, and the label was actually demanding for them to make their music more poppy. Before that, they were more of a post-punk band, and they've kind of continued in that vein since. But for 2 albums, they were released on the Jive label. They had been on Polydor before that. Polydor dropped them because their sales were a little less than what they expected. Since then, the Comsat Angels have picked up quite a following, and they're a lot more popular than they were. But this is their album Land, and glad to get this one. Like I say, I know it's a little more on the popular side, probably not their best album. I haven't heard it yet, so I'm just going off of what I've heard from others. And I thought, well, it's still a great way to at least start a collection from them. So there's that. And one more. This particular album I'm going to show next is actually a bootleg. So as far as the value of it, I couldn't really tell you because it doesn't show up on Discogs. However, I know from the fans that it's a highly sought after album by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Now, this particular demo I had never seen before, and when I was looking through the records, I pulled this one out and was looking at it, and he said, "Oh, you've got to hear that." He said it's a bootleg, and I said, "Well, it probably doesn't sound very good, a bootleg, and they're all demos." And he said, "You've got to hear it." So he put it on, and oh man, after even the first song, I was saying, "Okay, I'm getting that." Just really amazing sound. So Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, Nashville, 1979. This was the album that was never officially released. And there's a whole big story behind this album, which is a great album, by the way. And one of the cool things about this is it comes with a insert that tells you the story behind the record. Okay, now there it is. Quite a long story because it fills up both sides of the insert. But basically what it boils down to is Stevie Ray Vaughan, when he was starting out, and this was around the year, like I say, 1979, him and his band drove up from Austin, Texas to go to Nashville because there was somebody that had heard them and wanted them to record. But Stevie Ray Vaughan and his band, they didn't have the money, and neither did the actual record producer at the time. So he invited them up to Nashville, paid for their way. Basically, they got into a car with 4 bald tires and drove straight up to Nashville with only a jug of speed, is what Steve referred to it as. And that's what kept them awake and got them up there. And as soon as they got there, they went into the studio and recorded this album. Now, there were only 2 what do you call it? There were only 2 master recordings, master records put out of this, and one of them ended up getting destroyed. The second one got put away into a closet. I guess Stevie Ray Vaughan probably got it and took it back to Austin because it was found in a closet in Austin, Texas. Never was released. Stevie Ray Vaughan wanted to hear it. He said he never got a chance to hear it ever since they recorded it, so he had no idea what it sounded like. And he never actually got to hear what it sounded like before he died, unfortunately. But it has been released as a bootleg now. I don't know how that happened, but it's been recorded off of the acetate. And being a bootleg, you can imagine it's going to be on colored vinyl. So it's this beautiful pink vinyl with the nice label, Stevie Ray in the middle. And like I say, this record sounds simply amazing. I highly recommend any Stevie Ray Vaughan fans and all others to try to seek this one out. Now, several of the songs on it are sung by a female. I'm trying to find her name here. She was known as Miss Luann. Hold on a minute, it's right here. Luann Barton. And she was with the band. Stevie Ray didn't really feel confident enough in his vocals, so he had her helping her out, and she sings about half of them and he sings the others, so you get both vocalists, and then there are a couple of instrumentals on there too. There are a couple of songs in their early stages that you'd probably be familiar with, like Pride and Joy, Love Struck Baby, and Luann's let me tell you, Luann's vocals are just amazing. It'd been nice if she had stayed with the band too. She ended up going out on her own solo career, and when Stevie Ray got back to Austin, it wasn't very long before he got signed to a major label. Why they never released this, I have no idea, but it's a great album. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say about it. See if you can, I don't know if you can look this story up online or what, but it's really an interesting story. There's a lot more to it than what I mentioned. Just some great stuff. So anyway, that will do it for this Vinyl Finds video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please check out the channels that I talked about. Check out the Vinyl Policeman's channel, and also his official Mike Grogan channel, and check out the Facebook page for Riley's Records. You know, like I said, he worked out a really good deal, so it ended up I had enough money to buy pretty much everything I wanted. There were a couple of others. He had an original Peter Green solo album, you know, great stuff like that. So I'm sure I'll be making visits back to that place. But anyway, thank you for watching, and we will talk to you later.